All right. Well, thank you both for joining me today. Thanks, everybody. We're going to talk about falling for forms, and our topic of conversation today is going to be subforms. Let's make sure. Oops. Am I getting in here? Let's just click in here. There we go. My animation. All right. So today's webinar, we're going to cover what the definition of a subform is. Um, to make you most efficient, we've got a function called multi-record standard form setup. So I'll show you how that works. Then we will talk about subform filtering, because you can really create the same subform or even different variations of subforms on a main form, which we'll talk about, but it can really enhance the visibility that users see to that information, so they're not seeing as much. It's a way to kind of categorize the information. So I think it's super helpful, and I think my example, you'll get the gist and it'll be great. The last thing we'll talk about is form stats. Hopefully we have plenty of time for all of these components. Form stats will help you filter those forms directly on the form without having to go to a report. And you can also see aggregated information about it. So kind of, what do you can see? I'm going to mute everybody for now. The other thing that you can The other thing that you can do with form stats, like I said, is aggregate the information so you can see totals, averages, minimums, and maximums, I believe, for some of the information that has counts or totals. So I'll show you how that looks when we get over there. Get in here again. All right, so basics to forms are the form components. So we've got to be at the same playing field and have the same terminology. You will hear me talk about main forms and subforms. And then subforms must be on a container form or a main form. The container form will be the main form for a subform. Okay, and so you just got to have, it's like a basic understanding. I'll show you an example of what that looks like too, but that's my terminology. Typically, your main forms are going to be based off of parent table data. So what I'm talking about is the main entity, like family, child, birth parent, organization, or their case. Generally, that'll be the same. Excuse me, not the same, but these main forms will be based off of one of those tables. Typically, you could have a main form, let's say based off the home study table, and have home study interviews or home study documents or something like that that kind of comes underneath the home study, where those would be made up of subforms, but the main form would be a home study. That could totally be possible. But in general, let's say they're based off the main entity or the main entity's case. Subforms, on the other hand, are going to be based off those subtable records. So most subtable records are things that you guys are doing often. So home studies are happening often. Parent education is happening often. As an example here, documents, clearances, placements, you'll typically hear yourself say them with an S at the end, and that's why you'll need multiple records for them. We're very creative with our naming structure. Let's see. Okay, so multi-record standard form setup, because that's what we're going to be building today when we jump into SAM, has three components. It sets up a multi-record view form so that you can see each of the records that you've now added to the system. It will give you an add, edit, and details form, which are all linked together. So it is the same form. It can later be broken up, but at first they're all exactly the same. And then it also gives you that container form or your main form, what it's on. As an example here, this is what it sets up. So over here, this is going to be your multi-record view. This is home study number 2, so down below this, just doesn't fit on my screen here, is going to be the first home study record that was done. It's also giving you the add, the edit, and the details forms. All of these are the exact same form in the original setup of this. And then it gives you the container form, which is this outer layer, which is what the view form is resting in. You don't see it. The thing that you will be able to manage are the links that are on that, the sidebar links. So these here. The other thing that Sam sets up for you is a sidebar link on the home page, or the cover page rather, typically is where you would put it. You might choose that sidebar link to be on a different location. So again, kind of going back to the home study, if the details page, if that were going to be your main form and you were building a multi-record form for interviews underneath that, you might set those interviews to be the sidebar link to be visible on the home study details page. So you've got some options, but again, most people I see are putting information right on the cover page because users don't want to kind of move into the forms anymore. They really want the information to be visible at first. So from here, I'm going to jump into Sam, and let's see. So that link to, there we go. There we go. I am jumping into Sam. All right, so let me see where I've taken us to. I think it is that form, so just show you this. Hide this for me. So right here is the form that we were just looking at. So you've got the dual records, right? If I added another record, it will add home study number 3. And so I'll be able to see every single record that I have. I also get the add form. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and just add an additional record to this. We'll start this today. And depending on where Sam takes me, I may need to jump. I'm taken right back to the overview. This is actually setting up with an auto action. I'm not going to talk to that today. But what I want to show you are the multiple records, right? Behind this form, which you can't really tell again that it's there, is the container form that this is sitting in. And then again, the multi-record standard form setup sets up the edit, the detail, and the add form is the exact same form. Okay, so from here, what I'm going to do is actually build a brand new one. So I'm going to start from scratch. And I think this will be really pretty exciting for you. I was real excited. So from settings, we'll go tables and fields. And I'm going to create a brand new table in the system. So I'm going to create, under advanced options, create new table, and I've got to choose my parent entity for this table. I'm going to put this under the child, but something to always think about is what is the parent table for this. I think if it is a service-based item, you might consider putting it on the case table or making it come up under the case table. Sometimes if it is going to go with the child or the record, regardless of what case it is, I would probably recommend putting it under the main entity. In general, those are going to be the two big ones that we're going to put things under. I'm going to create a table for assessments. So I think these are going to be assessments based on I think I'm going to use the GARF2 and the what is this called? The parent-infant relationship. So I'm going to end up putting this table under the child main entity rather than the case, and I'm going to assume that those are going to go with the child regardless of what case it is. So I'm going to add it here. And that's kind of, again, that's my general sense of how you will determine where things go. Get with us. We'll talk it through and make a decision for your team if you need that help. So I'm going to call these assessments. And again, like I said, if generally you're talking about things as you use a plural at the end of that statement, you'll probably make it a multi-record table. So I am set up as a developer a little bit higher of visibility in SAM than a full admin. So there's two options here that you're not going to see. You will see though, do it, do it. Does this table, is this going to have multi-records per parent? In this case, yes. Again, if I'm saying assessments, I'm going to do multiple records of an assessment. Okay, I think I've beat that horse. So I'm going to press save. At this point, once I've created the table, under advanced options, and then really advanced options, I've got a function called multi-record standard form setup. And this is the topic of our conversation today. So I'm going to click here. From here, I'm going to name it. So I can certainly choose to name my forms different than my table. For simplicity, I'm going to keep it the same. The other thing I'm going to set is to mirror the overview and the details forms. I don't want to add the fields that I'm going to add to every single form. This is going to do it for me for all of those forms. Later on, I might unlink this setting so that my details form can actually have more detailed information than I display on an overview form. But for now, I'm going to keep it really simple. As far as choosing where to link this form, these are my options that I talked about, and I'm going to add this to the foster care child cover page. I can also rename the link. I could certainly say assessments for child, right? Whatever I wanted. I'm going to keep it nice and easy here though. Press save. Sam's doing its thing, creating those forms in the background, and really linking it all together. So I want you to notice up in here, this tells me what this form is based off, what tables, the very, very top. It's got some sibling forms that it's linked to. And then I am on the add edit details form to start, and so it's also other links, which is exactly the same link right now for where it's used as the add edit details or after save submitting form. You'll see this on all forms, so you can kind of track how forms are connected to each other through this. If you need help, we can totally work on that together though. So right now on my table, there's no fields that exist except for the ones that are automatically entered by Sam, the entered by, the last modified by, the ID fields. So we're going to add fields to this. I always practice before, so you'll see things kind of typed in. I'm going to create new forms. This option is allowing me to create a new field to the form and the table at the same time. So I'm going to write date of assessment. Assessment. Did I spell that right? Throw me off. Then I'm going to press save. From here on out, because of our time together, I'm going to probably press Control Enter to go ahead and save when I know things are done for that point. Okay, so that's why you won't see me click down and scroll down as low. All right, so I've got a date of the assessment. I actually want to add on here the assessment type. I'm going to create this as a list, and I'm going to go back to my list here once I create the list. And actually add a couple of values to it. So I'm going to click here so we don't lose what we're doing, and we can see it on the form. All right, so I'm going to add a list item here. So you guys are getting like a full tour of everything you can do with Form Customizer here. I'm going to add list item. Put this one in here. And then I am add list item. What is this called? PIR? No. It's the CGAS. There it is. Okay. All right, so I've got three types to my list. I'm going to go back to I'm going to kind of show you around field, or what is this? Field properties screen. Going over here to the forms that this field is used on, I'm going to jump over here to that. So I can get right back. You can kind of cycle around in SAM. So the assessment type, I'm going to add the score. Oops, creating a new assessment field. I'm going to set this as a number field, and then I will add one more field on here for the period, and I've got to make a list, and that's all I'm going to do right now. Period. Go. I'm going to set this as a radio button list this time. There we go. Assessment period. Okay. Open a new tab here. Hide this down here. All right, so another option to kind of move through is to add new tabs. You can certainly end up with a gazillion tabs in SAM, so making sure you close things out when you're done with them is super helpful for sanity. Initial, I'm going to do a closing and a post-closing. Add and a 30 days post-closing. 30 days post-closing. Cool. All right. Okay, so these forms exist. I've got an overview, I've got an add edit, and if I jump to the overview, just so you can see this, you will see that it is linked. This is a sibling form to the add edit details link. It's right here. This is actually the overview form, right? So this is the multi-record view form that it's going to show me. And then here linked is the container form. Okay, so I actually want to see this on a child record. Type in my field, or my record rather. Okay. And down here at the bottom of the sidebar, I've got a new link called assessments. Okay, so we can add new records already. Everything's ready to go for you to build reports off this. You can do all kinds of, anything that you want works with this. Templates, auto actions, all of that stuff functions. So I'm going to build a couple records in here. Let's say that this was done on the 18th and this is our closing. Oops, that's not going to make any sense, but that's okay. Edits. I can go in here. I'm going to be able to edit that. Let's say this is 60. We'll add an assessment. And that's here. And this is 7. And this is going to be my initial. Okay. So this is your standard form setup. Everything's really together. You get these links connected. It's very basic, but it's all connected and linked together. You can add any forms. You can really manage this the way that you like. But I think that there's some value in adding filtering and adding form stats to these to really enhance, again, the user's experience for this. Let me go ahead and unmute you guys real quick and just check in.
Everyone else is now unmuted.
Excellent. Thank you. Join me. Curious if you guys have any questions with that. So I know I go fast. You'll be able to watch this video recorded afterwards, but do you have any questions in general on just that setup? Cool. Well then I'm going to mute you again and then we'll talk to form filtering. All right, so form filtering then, the thing that I'm going to do is if you've got assessment type or, frankly a type or even a date field could really be applicable for this. Let me jump back here. Go into my screen here, and let's talk about the reasons why we might filter. So you might have, for example, communications that you want to see incidents or contacts or case notes, something very specific, more specific, and you can um, move those records that are labeled that way into another subform so that you're not seeing hundreds of communications, for example, but you're seeing those very specific ones. Another example might be documents. Those that are expiring, you might want to see identification documents in a specific subsection. You might want to see these assessments. Okay, and so we'll go back here. Function page down. Can I get down there? There we go. There we go. So that's what we'll do here is then we're going to filter on this. We're going by the assessment type is what I'm going to do. Because there are 3 assessment types here, I really am just going to break it up into which kind that we're seeing. So, advanced options, to get back to your form customizer view, you'll go here. I am going to be building this other subform on the container form. So if I jump over here to the container form, I will see my original subform that we've been looking at right here. Subforms, you can tell with this little ant line kind of encircling it. You'll also see edit this subform, right? Something that I've noticed on filtering as today, Sam, if I were to copy this subform, create new from existing, the filters that I apply are going to be shared between the two. So that's not going to be super helpful to us. So we're going to end up building a brand new subform. So we're going to add a subform to this container form, and I'm going to create a new form. So I'm going to base this form on assessments because that's what we're talking about. And these are going to be the GARF assessments. I'm going to be creating a multi-record subform. It's going to be a view, and I'm going to set it as a single row because we have very limited data that we're capturing on this, and it all looks nice and tidy on one single row. Click here to add more fields to the form, and then I'm using the link add multiple fields. I'm going to click assessment type, date of assessment, period, and the score. Okay, so now if I go back to my container form up here, that's a link, I can see the 2 forms side by side. So on the second one that I built about GARF, I'm going to go back to it, advanced options, really advanced options. There's a link that says filters and criteria. So I'm going to add a filter for the assessment type equals GARF. I'm going to go ahead and say it's the assessment type equals also the GARF too, and I am going to set the results to match any of these. Press save. So now if I jump back to my child record, I'm going to refresh this screen, and you can see here that a secondary subform has been added that only has the assessments that I've created that have one of the assessment types of GARF or GARF2. Now if I add another one I'm just going to keep the same date, keep my life simple, GARF2, put in this, I've got both GARF down here, but they're also being added to this one because we've yet to filter that. So depending on what you're doing, that may make total sense for you. Or you might want to go back to this subform and filter this one as well, which is what I'm going to do so that we can kind of see what's going on. So I'm going to jump back to the container form. And something I should mention here, SAMUP will tell you what the filters and criteria are for this form. So that's going to be really helpful for you admins. Let me jump back to the container form. And I can also change this, right? So I can change the labeling of it. So I'm going to just put GARF assessments here. And here I'm going to add the CGAS. Okay, so I'm kind of labeling it for my users as well. Then I'm going to go to this form specifically, go ahead and a second time go in here, advanced form, really advanced options, and filter the form. Add. Assessment type here is going to equal CGAS. Okay, and if I go back here and refresh the screen, got a lot of changes here. So I see my two CGAS assessments and then my GARF assessments. Let me give you guys some audio.
Everyone else is now unmuted.
All right, so talk to me. Is there any questions on this part here? Okay, cool. Anybody else? It's pretty simple, really, to do it. It's real helpful. So, what I can't remember is now as I've been playing with my PowerPoint is yeah, here is an example. Function 11. Oops, it's jumping up there. Let me get in here. Here's an example of an agency site where we built from communications because from communications a separate section that allows for their contacts to be shown.
Everyone else is now muted.
So the contacts is based off communications, but this is showing us just kids or communication records rather where the whoever was contacted actually wants to be placement. So every time they're adding new case notes, they can see those people right up at the very top. They are using communications as a single source for all their contacts instead of a separate table. And that made their very first contact with these people easier. We also used, and this I'm probably not going to do on today's call, but different add forms. So you do not have to use the same add form here as you have for all communications. You could link those two subforms to very different add, edit, and details forms because those settings are on each unique subform. You also, I mean, I don't know if you know this or not, do not have to have add forms on the sidebar, and you do not have to have add forms on the section headers, the subform headers. You don't have to have the add form in either place or in both. You could have it on either one as an option. All right, let me jump back out of here. All right, right here. So the last thing that I want to do here is add a form stat so that you can see that information as well. So I think I will click Form Customizer, and I'm going to go to this subform by itself. Under Advanced Options, Really Advanced Options, Enable Form Stats. And it's going to say, great, you've done it. I think it actually might say, well, what form stat do you want? So I'm going to choose Assessments. I'm going to do the assessment type. Even though I've divided it, I'm still going to do it by that. And then I've got a record count here. Some of the things that I think will also be of benefit are the totals. The averages is what I want to get here. And I'm going to do the average on the assessment score. So I can see that. And probably by field title is fine. I think if I had chosen to keep the assessments all together in a single subform, this might make a little bit more sense. but the functionality is still real cool, and it'll be able to give us the average between all the different scores that we have for those different types. Function F5 refreshes. There we go. Okay, so here's what a form stat looks like. If I open it up, I now see for each assessment type that I have, and this is super helpful on these GARF because I've combined them together. For GARF 1, there's only one um, assessment that's been done, and the average of that is 77. So that means if I were to add another assessment for here and GARF 1, and I'll put it as 30 days closing, and I put it as 80, I'll have a different average for that at this point. So now you can see there are two assessment records, and my average is changed to find that calculation for those two records that I have. Wow. It's super cool. I was definitely on a call. It was a little bit more exciting because there was a little more speaking to me yesterday afternoon. And this is, I think, one of the coolest things about Sam's ability to kind of customize the forms. I'm going to talk to you guys because I prefer that.
Everyone else is now
We've
unmuted.
got really we're now over time. That's really the crux and the conversation I was going to have with you today. But I just want to find out if there are any any questions on what I covered, and then if you can see any use cases for this that work for your organizations.
I haven't done anything with separating out case notes yet. It just didn't come to mind, but now I think that's something that we need to do.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I think Heather is on the call, and I believe that we did this setup for her communication records for where communication topic type equals case note. We just popped it up. Created Popped it up doesn't make any sense. We created a subform, which is really how I've got the family records based at this point, too. Anyone else? I know there's a Kim on. Kim on. I'm not sure if that's Kim from Evolve or Kim from Aggie Land.
Evolve.
Hey, curious if you can see any this this is what I believe that this setup is what I kind of um added to our master site from the conversation that I'd had with Heather at Madison. Curious if you see any functionality, if you can think of any use cases for you guys.
I don't know. Maybe we'd be able to work that into our system later.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it's very interesting to understand this concept, I think.
yeah, for sure. Um, well, well, great. I mean, that's what I've got for you guys today. Let me see. Let me drop down a little bit. Something that I wanted to, oops, it doesn't want to present for me. Just let you know, I like talking about subforms. I've been working a whole lot on videos so that you can see those. That is really like what I do in my off time. Many weekends have been spent on creating videos for you to kind of review that are more 1 minute instead of 30 minutes of me kind of rambling. But the next 30-minute webinar is next month. I'm going to talk about sidebars and some ideas behind keeping it clean. Um, it is going to be rescheduled. My this week was rescheduled because I thought I had a workshop last week. Of course, I bike over there and nobody's there. The workshop that I was going to is now next month, same time as I planned. So I hope that you guys will join me next March 20th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and we'll talk about sidebars. And if that's it for today, I'm gonna let you go and send you guys an email with this video. You can always find it online under inreachsolutions.com/webinars as well. Enjoy. Steve, stay warm. Bye, guys.